She was halfway through a work email when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your taxi is 5 minutes out. She stared at it, waiting for context that didn't come. Deleted it. Went back to the email. 20 minutes later, her doorbell rang. She opened it to find 2 children on the landing. A boy, maybe 9. A girl younger. They stood close together, holding a plastic bag between them. The boy looked up at her with her brother's eyes. She knew them immediately. She'd seen photos. Birthdays, first days of school. Christmas mornings her mother forwarded without comment. She'd never met them in person. Our dad said you'd be here, the boy said. He sounded rehearsed, like he'd been told what to say and was sticking to it. She looked past them, down the stairs, out the front door. No car, no adult. Just the taxi pulling away at the end of the block. Where's your dad? Working. The girl shifted her weight. He said you'd watch us. She hadn't spoken to her brother in 11 months. Not since she told him no. It had been small. The thing he asked for. Co-sign a lease. He'd burned through his credit, his wife's credit, their mother's patience. He called her on a Tuesday night, his voice easy, familiar, like no time had passed. Just need a signature. Won't cost you anything. She'd said no quietly. He'd laughed, said she was joking. She said it again. The call ended shortly after. Then the text started. Then the silence. Then this. She brought the kids inside because they were children and it was cold and she didn't know what else to do. Sat them on the couch, gave them water, asked if they were hungry. The girl shook her head. The boy watched her carefully, like he was trying to figure out which version of aunt he'd gotten. She texted her brother. Your kids are at my old address. I don't live there anymore. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Nothing. She tried calling. Straight to voicemail. She called her sister-in-law, saying the kids sat on her couch, swinging their legs, not asking questions. She wondered how often this happened, how many strangers' couches they'd waited on, how many times they'd been told someone would come and someone hadn't. She called the taxi company first. They gave her the dispatcher's number. The dispatcher gave her the booking details. Mail caller confirmed the address. Confirmed children would be received by a female occupant. No, they didn't have a second contact number. Yes, the driver followed protocol. The children were delivered to the address provided. She hung up and sat at her kitchen table, the phone warm in her hand. The kids were watching something on a tablet, volume low. The boy glanced at her once, then looked away. She thought about calling her mother. Thought about the conversation that would follow. The careful neutrality. The quiet suggestion that maybe she should just let it go. Just watch them for a few hours. Just to keep the peace. She'd heard it her whole life. Just let him borrow the car. Just let him have the last piece. Just let him explain. Just let him. She called the police instead. Not 911. The non-emergency line. She explained the situation evenly, the way she'd explain a delivery error or a noise complaint. 2 unsupervised minors dropped at the wrong address, parent unresponsive. She gave her brother's name, his wife's name, the address she'd moved from. She gave her own name too. Said she was the aunt. Said she didn't know what to do. The dispatcher told her to wait with the children. An officer would come. She sat on the floor next to the couch while they waited. The girl asked her name, she told her. The girl nodded like she was filing it away. The boy didn't speak again. The officer was young, patient, good with kids. He asked them questions, gently wrote down their answers, made a call. 20 minutes later, her brother's wife arrived. She looked harried, embarrassed, angry in a way that seemed aimed at everything at once. She grabbed the kids without thanking anyone, without looking at her. The officer stopped her, asked for ID, asked a few more questions, let her go. After they left, the officer lingered, asked if she wanted to file a report. She said no. He nodded, gave her a card, told her to call if anything else happened. She put it on the counter and forgot about it for 3 days. On the 4th day, her brother called. She watched his name on the screen for a full minute before answering. When she did, he didn't say hello. He said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" She didn't answer. "You called the cops on your own nieces and nephews. You sent them to a precinct. You know what that did. Do you have any idea what that looked like?" She waited. Let him fill the silence. "I needed one afternoon. One. And you couldn't just, you had to make it a thing. You had to make it about you?" "I don't live there anymore," she said. Her voice was calm. She hadn't expected that. "You sent them to the wrong address. So you call the cops. You don't call me. You don't think to pick up a phone, and I called you. You didn't answer. I called your wife. She didn't answer. I was working. Then you should have figured something else out." He was quiet. She could hear him breathing, could picture him standing somewhere, phone pressed to his ear, jaw tight. She'd seen that jaw her whole life, clenched when he didn't get what he wanted, clenched when someone said no. "They're kids," he said finally. "They're your family. I know. And you handed them over to strangers." "I handed them over to someone who asked their names and wrote them down." She stood up from the table, walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. A woman pushed a stroller past, a dog sniffed a tree. Normal life continuing. You handed them over to a taxi. He hung up. She thought he'd call back. He didn't. She thought his wife would text, or her mother would call, or something would happen to break the silence. Nothing did. Days passed, then weeks. Then it was just quiet. Sometimes she thought about the kids. Wondered if they remembered her, if they'd been told a story about what happened, if they'd grow up thinking of her as the aunt who wouldn't help. That thought hurt more than she expected. She let it hurt, didn't try to fix it. A month later, a letter arrived, forwarded from her old address. The envelope was plain, her name handwritten in unfamiliar script. Inside, a single sheet of notebook paper folded into thirds. Dear, I'm the woman who lives in your old apartment now. I don't know if you remember, but I'm the one who called the police about the kids that day. I wanted to thank you for handling it the way you did. You didn't have to stay with them. You didn't have to call. You could have just shut the door. I don't know your situation, and it's none of my business. But I wanted you to know that you did the right thing. Not the easy thing, the right one. If you ever want to grab coffee, I'm around. She read it 3 times. Folded it carefully. Put it in the drawer with the officer's card. She never called the woman, never wrote back. It wasn't about forming a connection. It was about knowing someone had seen it. Someone had watched her sit on the floor with those kids, had watched her make the call, had watched her wait. Someone had understood without being told. Her brother never sent the kids again, never asked for anything, never spoke to her at all. She thought about him sometimes late at night when the quiet pressed in, wondered if he ever saw it differently. If he ever realized that the person he'd sent his children to wasn't there anymore, not just in the apartment, in the family, in the role he'd assigned her. Probably not. Probably he just moved on. Found someone else to ask, someone else to say yes. That was fine. She wasn't waiting for an apology. She wasn't waiting for anything. She was just living in her own apartment with her own name on the lease and a door that only opened when she wanted it to.